I'm Midnight Furie, and I'm interviewing White Crone.
Hello.
Hi Lisa, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well.
Tell us, who is White Crone?
Well, White Crone is my alter ego, and I'm a blues artist by trade. My name is Lisa Mann, and I have been producing my own CDs and live performances for many years in the blues scene. But I grew up a metalhead, and I never lost my love of metal. And I recently produced my own full-length metal project, and the name White Crone came to mind, which is kind of literally descriptive of me at this point in my life. And it's kind of my alter ego, the dark side.
Now, you started your work on your debut album, The Poisoner, in 2018. Was there something specific that inspired you to make the change from blues to heavy metal?
Well, actually, I started writing in 2016, and I didn't start recording in a studio until late 2018, but I just started piecing it together in my spare time. And actually, it was after I heard the band Ghost in the process for the Grammy Awards. I was so intrigued because they were so strange. When, I'm a voting member, and when I vote, I look at the blues categories, and I also look at the rock and metal categories because those are the categories I have a background in. Mm-hmm. So, I had heard of Ghost, but I never heard them. And it was the song Cerise. And it was just so weird and different. And I started getting into them. And I thought, it just occurred to me while I was listening to them one day, oh, you can do whatever the hell you want. You could just write whatever kind of music you want. And then all of a sudden, I started coming up with these ideas, bass lines, melodies. I'd be washing my hair or driving my car, and all these melodies would start coming out of my head. And that's how I started writing The Poisoner. It was in there. It was itching to come out.
Your album was released in February 2020. How did that go?
Well, actually, it went quite well here in Portland, Oregon. There's a record store. It's a pretty famous record store called Music Millennium, and they have a lot of live performances too. And so I did a CD release party there, and it was packed. And that was also the same weekend that Ozzy released his new album.
Yes.
And I outsold Ozzy for 2 weeks in a row
Good for you.
at the music store. So that made me feel pretty good. And and I found some guys to help me with PR. Jarl is a carcass bomb down in Australia. And also a fellow named Zach Moonshine. He's helped me out and spread the word. And that's been great because, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, did it make a sound? Yeah. So thank you for helping get the word out about The Poisoner.
Oh, you're most welcome.
It's coming out in a slow burn. I don't think it really crashed into anybody's scene, but I've gotten pretty much just good reviews about it, and people are enjoying it. It's the classic metal that I grew up with in the 80s, and I think a lot of people resonate with that.
I'm intrigued by the hints of paganism in your lyrics and imagery for the debut album. Is that purely PR, or do you feel a connection?
No, I do feel a connection. Actually, I was involved in the pagan community when I lived in Seattle for a while. And, so, did some events and camping for Beltane weekend and fun things like that. But primarily, I'm a Buddhist, and I've studied Buddhism in temples and done retreats in monasteries and things like that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from now. But I'm still intrigued and fascinated with paganism, but also kind of the schlockier side of things. It's just horror, storytelling, scary movies. I've got a song about zombies. I'm just fascinated with the occult. And but I'm more into, I love these satanic bands out there, Behemoth and Ghost and stuff like that. That's fine. That's not where I'm coming from, because mine is more of that. The White Crone is a storyteller. She's like the village wise woman, and she's a sights or she's a seer. She's a prognosticator, and she's not there. She's there to warn you, basically. If you go fooling around with this stuff, be careful. Bad things might happen. That's what the song Into the Abyss is about. Tread carefully, lest ye wake the dragon.
I've been through the lyrics on your website, and there's definitely very earthiness to it, and again, mentions of the occult and all of that flowing together. It's really what inspired me to set this interview up.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I spent a lot of time crafting those lyrics. So to have someone...
It shows.
Listen and read, it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you. On to sort of more contemporary issues. Times are very hard for musicians at the moment with the coronavirus pandemic. When the lockdown is finally lifted, do you plan to tour, or do you think touring will have evolved into something more virtual?
Wow. Yeah, this is going to be hard because people, well, for one thing, venues can start opening. That's one thing. But are the people going to feel safe in going? Even right now, in some parts of the U.S., they're starting to open up some nightclubs, and they can only work at quarter capacity, half capacity. So it's one thing to have the gigs be there. It's another if people will come. So I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to bring. I want to tour. I love to tour. I mainly tour as a blues musician. Like I said, that's my main source of income. I don't have a day job. I'm just a musician. So it's been really rough. But as far as the metal thing goes, who knows what will happen with White Crone, because I played all the instruments except for the drums and a couple of guitar solos. So, there is no White Crone band. I'm pretty much the band. But I'm also working with a band called Splintered Throne. They're a kick-ass band, very high energy, also traditional metal. So we would love to tour as Splintered Throne as well in the future. But who knows? It's all up in the air. It really is. We just have to take it as it comes.
Yeah. There's lots of musicians and artists going online now, videoing themselves playing different songs and different instruments and things.
Yes.
Do you think maybe that's a future?
Actually, that's my present. I've been doing that mostly once a week. I did a couple years ago. I played the I think it's the Great British Rhythm and Blues Festival, and the promoter there put together something called the Lockdown Festival, and so there were artists from the UK and artists from America. Broadcasting at different times all day long for an entire day. And I've taken part in something called Can't Stop the Blues, which is another kind of a online festival type of a thing. But I've also just done it on my Facebook page, just lisamannmusic.com. Or facebook.com /lisamannmusic. That's my blues stuff. And so I've just been live streaming some blues once a week and hoping people will give me some PayPal donations so I can go grocery shopping. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no income. It's tough. It's been rough. The biggest bands in the world are shut down right now.
Yes, yeah. It's tough for everybody. What's the most memorable thing that's happened to you on stage?
Oh, gosh. Oh, I've had a lot of incredible things. Well, I have to say the most memorable thing, actually, I got married on stage to my husband, Alan. That was back in 2009. And there were thousands and thousands of people. It's a very large festival. Thousands of people in the audience, most of which had no idea that a wedding was about to take place. So that was definitely the most memorable moment on stage, was getting married to my sweet husband.
That's fantastic. Proper rock and roll.
Yeah. It was actually, there was a stage manager named Jim Miller. He was a good friend, and that was his idea. He said, "You want to get married at the festival?" Because we were, I was going to play there. And he just asked if we'd want to get married. He's since passed away, our friend Jim, but we're very grateful for that opportunity. I still have people coming up to me all the time. They say, "Hey, I was at your wedding." Yeah, you and 10,000 other people.
So what's the long-term plan for White Crone? Is that going to be more of a long-term project, or is it just the one album?
No, it's not going to be the one album, because I actually have 5 songs that are, the skeletons of them have been written. And so, like I said, I got busy with my blues project again. I've got a 5-song EP coming out for that. And, I've been doing some other things too with Splintered Throne. And, but now I'm taking some time to revisit these songs. One of them actually, I had Vinny Appice guest on The Poisoner, and there's another song that he recorded for me that I have yet to release. So Vinny Appice will make another appearance on the drums. And there will be another White Crone album for sure.
Wonderful. If there was any message you could send to your fans right now, what would it be?
Be nice to each other. It's hard right now. I'm very opinionated. Lots of people are very opinionated. But be nice to each other and listen to each other. There's a lot of lies going around. There's a lot of BS floating around, especially in the internet. And that's how we're all connecting now. So just look for the truth. Trust people that what they're sharing with you is true. Their personal experiences, and don't look past people's humanity. Let's try to get along a little better.
That's a very apt message. Completely agree with you there.
Yeah.
How can your fans keep in contact with you? You mentioned a Facebook page. Is there anything else?
Yes. Yeah, I have so there's Lisa Mann Music is for the blues. And Lisa Mann Blues also is my band page. But there's a White Crone page. And so, this interview and those kind of things that come up, I'll be sharing that on Facebook at White Crone, WhiteCrone. And I'm also on Instagram, White Crone, also on Twitter. And that's how we connected.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place. And then there's my main website, which is whitecrone.com.
Yeah, I've had a look through your website. It is brilliant. Very informative.
Thank you. I like to let people know what the process is like as an independent artist of making a CD, from writing the songs to the pre-production studio process. I think people are fascinated by that stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very difficult for a person such as myself trying to find out about bands, and you go to their website and all it's got is their latest single.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, but I want to know who they are and when did they form, and
yeah.
And there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But your website has got it all.
Well, thank you. Great.
Tell me a bit more about your debut album, The Poisoner, the tracks and the meanings behind each one.
Well, the first track is The Dream of Tiamat. And musically, it's very inspired by Merciful Fate. I was a big King Diamond and Merciful Fate fan, still am. But the lyrics are inspired by an actual dream that I had when I was a teenager. I awoke in this cave in the center of the earth, and I saw this like a serpent goddess across the way in the dark with these glowing eyes. And I felt drawn to her, and I approached her, and she opened up her mouth and bit my head off. And the next thing I know, I was looking out of those burning eyes, and I was waiting for the next the next victim to come along. And it was such a profound dream that I remember it so many years later. So that's the story of the first track. And the second track is The Poisoner. And that's more Judas Priest, a little Exodus inspired musically, but the lyrics are a little more Judas Priest inspired. It's like a character. The Poisoner exists through time and space. He travels through time, and he's like, I don't know if he's immortal. I don't know. He's a mystery to me too. But he kind of works on behalf of the abused, the maligned, the servant that is mistreated by the master. And so there's no escaping the Poisoner, no matter how high your castle walls are.
Reminds me a little bit of Hecate.
Karma coming back.
Well, she stands up for the downtrodden and leads the blind.
Yeah. So I can see why the lyrics resonate with you. Yeah. Yeah, so To the Abyss is kind of the origin story of the Poisoner. I kind of realized that in hindsight. It's about someone who plays around with dark magic, thinking that he's going to gain powers beyond recognition, but then he just ends up, falling into the abyss. And musically, that's got a lot of Black Sabbath influence in that one. Our Sacred Duty is the intro to Broken. That's got some 8-string bass in there. And then Broken is probably as dark as some of the other subjects are. Broken is something that's about the real world, and it's about how women throughout history in cultures around the world have participated in our own oppression. So in China, which the first verse is about the foot binding.
The bound feet.
That's right. And it was the mothers that did that to their daughters. And it was because if you didn't, she was going to either become a nun or a peasant, and no one would marry her. So in a way, they were forced to do this to their daughters in order to make them acceptable to society. They can't be received by society unless they're broken in this way. And the second verse is about genital mutilation in some cultures, and it's the mothers that do it again.
Yeah.
And the third verse is about, a Bible-thumping Christian mother that, your father and your husband-to-be won't accept you unless I beat you into submission. And, it's a lesson that we women need to learn, that we shouldn't be passing these things down to our daughters.
It's a shame that it still happens.
It's a shame that it still happens. Not so much as it used to. That's got a Middle Eastern feel to it. And I had a friend, Catone Lyles, put percussion on there. It was actually, I should mention, Larry London played drums. He's a drum instructor, and he's fantastic. He played drums on most of the tracks. And I also had guest guitar player Mehdi Farjami he's former from Glacier, and he played guitar on a couple of tracks, including the next track, The Seven Gates of Hell. So Mehdi Farjami did the solo on there, and that's a cover of a Venom song. I love that Venom song, but it's just very lo-fi, and the recording is just not that great. It sounds like they just knocked it out in one take. And I thought, hey, it might be nice to take this diamond in the rough and polish it up and kind of sing it like Dio might sing it. Because Dio, I'm a huge Dio fan, and he was a big influence on me. So the Seven Gates of Hell, that's kind of like if Dio sang a Venom song.
It's a gorgeous cover.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a well-written song, really brilliant song. The next song is The New Planet Earth. New Planet Earth is... that's more in the schlocky horror, sci-fi realm of things. The lyrical idea, the story, is a mad scientist that's got this, that's breeding this alien that's about to take over the world, and a caver just happens to wander in and find this laboratory. And, oh, so glad you're here. I'm going to feed you to the monster. So that's kind of where that came from. So it's a little more fun and lighthearted. It's also in a major key. And I really decided to structure. I really love full albums. I was a big fan of Rush and of Pink Floyd too, where they made a point. And Ghost did this as well. That's what I appreciate about them. With Meliora, just making a point of crafting an album from start to finish so that you have a complete work that someone can listen to front to back all the way through, and it has a certain flow. And so when I listened to all these tracks that I'd written, it was one of the last tracks I wrote was New Planet Earth. So I thought, I need something with a major key. And so that's part of the story with that. That's very Iron Maiden influenced as well. And then Interment is the instrumental, and I really love multi-movement songwriting and neoclassical. I was a fan of Yngwie Malmsteen, his early work, and so there's a bit of neoclassical in there, and so that's the instrumental. And that runs right into Edge of Gone. And that's another song that isn't about the occult. It's not otherworldly. It's actually about a mentally ill homeless person and their perspective, and how, people just treat them like they don't even exist. It's like they're almost about to slip off the edge of the earth, So that's a song about the homeless crisis. That's very kind of Black Sabbath influenced as well. Melancholia, that is a bass etude. So that's all one bass guitar. I'm playing a bass line and chords and a melody. So that's the other instrumental on here. And then Larry London played some drums on there. But yeah, I tried to make it sound like several instruments, but that really is my one Tobias Killer Bee 6-string bass. So it's just one bass, 3 parts. And that's one of the first things I wrote, actually, for the album. And then under Hagstones, as you probably already know, are stones with a hole through them. So it's like a ring through it. And, cultures have given them magical significance and said they ward off evil. And so I kind of came up with this story of an ancient curse of evil beings that were entombed in graves, and the graves were covered in these stones to keep them in the graves so their spirits wouldn't come out. But that modern people started moving in. People forgot over time what this was. And then, modern people moving in with their homes and their factories, and they're disturbing the graves, and out come the zombies. So that's my zombie song. With Vinny Appice, former drummer of Dio and Black Sabbath. And he worked with me on a blues CD not that long ago, a few years ago. So I contacted him and said, this is a very slow tempoed song, and nobody can play a slow, heavy tempo like Vinny. So that's also very kind of a Black Sabbath Dio kind of a tune. And the final song The final song is 18 Rabbit. And that's kind of the crux of this whole project. That song was like the first song I started coming up with for White Crone. It's one of the first licks that came out on the bass. It's very Iron Maiden influenced. Some people have said they hear some Thin Lizzy in there. Yeah, that song, it's the longest song on the record. It's actually about a Mayan king who really existed. And he was a patron of the arts. He was more peaceful. And because he sponsored the arts, all these architects came into Copan, which is now in Honduras, I believe, in Mesoamerica. And all these architects came in and created these incredible sculptures that eventually archaeologists uncovered. And so it's the story of his life and his very unfortunate death. I saw a documentary about this Mayan king, and I was so intrigued that someone could have a peaceful reign, but also commission these works of art that would last for century after century, even when covered by the jungle. And that's what every musician and every artist hopes for, is that they will leave something behind that lasts. And I have no delusions that I'm gonna maybe I outsold Ozzy at my local record store, but I really, I don't have any delusions that I'm ever going to be as famous as someone like Ozzy or Ronnie James Dio or something like that. But just to have something out there that you listened to it, and you read the words, and it meant something to you. And that's something that every artist that we can only hope for, and that maybe someday after I'm dead and gone, that somebody else will pick up this album, The Poisoner, and go, wow, this resonates with me. I appreciate this. So 18 Rabbit, that's probably the most special song on the album for me. So thank you for asking me about the songs. Every songwriter, we put a lot of work into our babies. They're like our babies. And so when someone appreciates them, it really hits home. So thank you.
Well, thank you. You have a deliciously rich, well-crafted, insightful album there. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it.
Wow.
And I'm hoping that my listeners will as well.
Wow. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. This wonderful album of yours, The Poisoner, by White Crone. I've got my copy. Where can other people get theirs?
Well, yes, that's a very important question. Well, you can buy the CD or download the album on Bandcamp at whitecrone.bandcamp.com. And remember, it's CRONE. N as in Nancy. I've been called White Crane, White Chrome, like a chrome bumper. So let people know it's, on Bandcamp. And I also have, it's also available with a Greek distributor and a German distributor online. No Remorse Records, I know.
I know I got my copy from iTunes.
Oh, yes, exactly. So the best way to listen to the album is on CD, if you can find it. Shipping costs from the U.S. are pretty bad. They went up last year. But, people can message me and I can try to work something out if you want to order the CD from the UK or the EU. Just message me on Bandcamp or on Twitter, on Facebook, and I'll see what we can put together. This is kind of my only source of income at this point is online sales and downloads. I've been lucky in the blues to get on some popular Spotify playlists. So every little bit helps. This is what I do full time, is music for a living, and we musicians really appreciate the support right now.
Thank you so much, Lisa Mann, White Crone, for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you very much, Midnight Furie.